This is the Heather Patero Show, where conversation meets calling. Well, welcome back to the Heather Patero Show. I'm so glad you're here. My guest today is a marine biologist, founder of the Carter Viss Foundation, co-author of Found in the Wake, artist, aquarium guy, one-handed pianist, and a YouTuber. And I tell you what, Carter, if that is not the most well-branded thing I've ever heard, because I heard that your last name is Viss, which means fish in Dutch, and then you end up becoming a marine biologist. I mean, how does that happen?
Yeah, it's a crazy coincidence, really. It's perfect for branding, and I love to share that fact. And it's crazy how my life has got me in this position now. So I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's like destiny showed up early and said, "We've already chosen your lane for you."
Yeah, for real.
So at what point did you realize that this fish thing might actually be like your whole thing?
I'd say it mainly started like when I was a very little kid in the doctor's office. They always had that like a saltwater fish tank in the front waiting room. And I absolutely just fell in love with like looking at it, seeing all the cool, colorful fish in it. And I knew like I didn't know anything about them then, but I knew like I wanted to learn more about this. What's all this coral about? What's all these colorful fish? What are they doing? Like it totally inspired me to get into fish keeping and the ocean in general.
Well, I'm sure your mom loved you bringing in creatures and fish and turtles and everything as a kid.
Yeah, she drew the line at snakes. That's just that.
Yes, I think I would have to do that too.
Yeah.
So, when did it go from this is something I love to this might actually be my life's work?
Well, I think the main distinction happened, I'd say about halfway through high school. I I really wanted to get a larger saltwater tank. I only really had a smaller one for a few years, and I got this. It's a 90-gallon tank, so people who know like aquariums, that's kind of like a medium-sized tank, I'd say. But it was, a lot of work. And as a high schooler, I was very new to it, very inexperienced, but I really wanted to dedicate, time and effort into really learning this and really getting better at it. And through a lot of kind of trial and error, I did get a little better at it, and it kind of gave me the drive and inspiration to say, okay, well, now when I'm done with high school, I want to go study the ocean, get better at, this um, kind of operating aquariums, and really get into the science behind it all. And that's kind of what led me to university next to the beach, Palm Beach Atlantic University, down in West Palm Beach, Florida. And that's kind of where I found my new home.
Oh, that's awesome. You've said
Yeah.
your work focuses on fish health, nutrition, and improving fish farming. Help the rest of us understand what that actually looks like day to day.
Yeah. So I'm a grad student right now. I'm working for my master's degree. So I'm doing a lot of work on my master's thesis right now. And kind of looping back a bit, what I work in is called aquaculture. Uh, that's a really common word in like the science community, but just for like anyone else listening, it's basically fish farming. It's farming with anything in water. So I work in aquaculture research, and kind of more specifically, I work in fish nutrition. So it's basically what these fish are getting fed and how well that helps their health and growth. So what my master's thesis focuses on, kind of to put it really simply, is um, in our facility, we have what's called this is a pretty long word, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture system. So short is IMTA. So what it means is that there's there's a lot of fish in like one large tank in the system. Then like on the other side of the system, there's a lot of seaweed growing. So it's like basically the seaweed grows by absorbing all the waste nutrients these fish produce. So basically, the system has a bunch of this seaweed that's always growing, and we don't really do anything with it. So my thesis is more, how do we incorporate this seaweed that we have an abundance of into, say, diets of fish in the system? So basically, we're recycling nutrients and creating more sustainable aquaculture. So that's kind of like a really short summary of my thesis, and uh, kind of just the outline of what it gets in depth on.
Sure. So, how does that apply to us day to day in our grocery stores or as we eat fish?
That's a great question. So at the moment, most fish is still wild caught. However, there has been a very significant shift in aquacultured fish showing up on the market. I think since 2020, the industry has grown from like 4 billion to like 20 billion or something like that. So it's more than tripled in size. And in other countries, it's a lot more prevalent. In the US is actually way behind when it comes to aquaculture, and that's kind of where I step in with the research. Is we want to find more sustainable, profitable ways for aquaculture and for its growth in the US, because profitability kind of analysis, it's just not really meeting the mark yet. And what as researchers, we just look for ways to help improve that.
Well, do your fish friends ever come to you with fish questions the way people ask their doctor friends with weird rash questions?
Oh yeah. I mean, I am huge into fish ID. So like if anyone's out fishing or like snorkeling or sees a fish, and like I just get texts from people, "Hey Carter, what's this fish?" And I can figure it out in probably less than a minute.
That's
I
awesome.
love my fish. Yeah.
So, outside of the science, you've got art, music, aquariums, and a cool YouTube page called Left Hand Hobbies, which is just a fantastic name we'll talk about later. So, were you always someone who needed both logic and the creativity?
Yeah, I'd say I was. Through college, I really got into playing piano, and well, I guess through my whole childhood, my mom, Leela, is a piano teacher. That's how we got connected. And uh, kind of throughout my childhood, I wasn't really too motivated to play piano. But once I got into college, I really found it as kind of a way of relaxation and getting my mind kind of off my schoolwork for a bit. And that carried on into my post-college days, um, as well as art too. I didn't do too much like painting or drawing um, before. Well, I'll get into kind of what happened to me in a bit. But before all that happened, I didn't do too much art. But I always had an appreciation and kind of a kind of an interest in it.
Well, and I think they definitely go hand in hand, appreciation and
Yeah,
wonder of nature and art, because nature is art in itself. So let's go on
yeah.
over to that. Let's go to Thanksgiving Day 2019. Public reporting says that you were snorkeling near Breakers Reef in Palm Beach on Thanksgiving Day when you were struck by a boat. You lost your right arm, suffered severe injuries to both legs, and badly injured your left wrist. It also says that your dive buddy and a nearby paddleboarder were critical in saving your life. Tell us about that day.
Yeah, it's a day that obviously changed my life. And, people would say that, oh, it's a tragedy that happened, and it sure was, but it did change my life in great ways too. And I'll get to all that later. But the day itself, we went out snorkeling kind of in this reef that throughout college, I went to probably at least like 100 times. It was right off the beach, close to campus. I knew this reef like the back of my hand, and uh, had the day off for Thanksgiving, and it was great ocean conditions. So my friend Andy and I, we worked we worked together and decided to go out snorkeling. And about 3 hours in to being in the water, we decided we're pretty much done and tired for the day. So I started swimming in, and that's when I heard this really loud sound in the water, kind of the sound of a boat engine. And what's interesting is that boats, as you know, the sound travels a lot further underwater than above water, actually like 5 times further. So if something's really far away, you can still hear it. Like boats, are really, really loud in the water. So like, when you hear a boat passing by from a faraway distance, it does sound pretty loud. So I always kind of heard like that sound because I would dive in like pretty populated areas. But then this sound got like extremely loud, extremely fast. And I actually looked to my right because I was swimming towards the beach, and I saw this massive hull of a boat heading straight towards me. And kind of just like that, I was in a life or death situation. I knew that um, I very, very likely could die from this. I need to get out of its way as fast as I can. I started swimming, and I'd say I probably had about 3 seconds of like noticing the boat till I was hit. So I was like trying to swim as fast as I can, try to get underwater, but it was just too fast. And kind of right before the boat hit me, I managed to kind of turn my body so my limbs were facing more towards the boat than like my head or my torso. And then I was hit. And the first thing I remember after the impact was seeing my right arm, well, noticing that I was missing from my body, and then seeing the arm itself kind of sinking down towards the reef, and kind of processing the absolute shock of that. I noticed I couldn't really swim or move my legs, and I got a glimpse of my legs, and they were both basically dangling off my body. And I didn't even know at the time, but my left wrist was hit and badly broken. But obviously, since I had all these other severe injuries, like I didn't even know that at the time. And thankfully, my friend Andy was close by. He was in absolute shock and disbelief as well when he first saw my missing arm and kind of what happened to me. But he managed to hold me up, hold my head above water, and thankfully, the boat that did hit me noticed what happened. They saw like all the blood in the water and heard the screaming and turned around, were able to call 911, and basically kind of like slowly backed up towards us so they could pick us up. That's when Andy kind of swam me to the back of the boat, and a paddleboarder nearby, her name's Christine, who was a stranger to us then, so we didn't know her at all. Uh, but she actually just about a week before this happened learned how to tie a tourniquet in a first aid class, like how to properly tie one. And she immediately kicked into gear and saw like my missing limb, my other injuries, and noticed the bungee cord on her paddleboard and used that as a tourniquet to tie around my arm. And that alone in itself saved my life because the surgeons estimated that I lost about half my blood by the time, I got onto the boat. And yeah, if I would have lost any more, I probably would have gone into shock and wouldn't be here. So uh, that was just really amazing that she was in that spot at the right time to do that. And um, well, the boat got me to the beach then after that, and got to the hospital, and it was kind of a leap of faith of they're going to put me under for surgery. I don't know if I'm going to wake up from this. I don't know if I'm going to have any limbs, but I just gotta go in and hope for the best, and really trust in my faith in God in that scenario. And yeah, it was obviously a very traumatic day, and it's what really kind of projected my life in the direction it's going
And I'm
now.
just glad that Christine and Andy stayed calm and they acted fast. And I also read that while you were in the water, Andy told you, God is with us. What a powerful statement.
Yeah, yeah, it was when the boat was taking me to the beach. I was absolutely livid, screaming, like I'm gonna die, just in complete and utter despair. And Andy could sense that. And the words that just came to him in that moment was like, God is here, God is with us right now. And after that, it was kind of like a subtle reminder that, God is here. And like I felt just this overwhelming peace come over me. I was just looking into the blue sky, and it was something that calmed my heart rate. Like physiologically, it definitely uh, prevented me probably from bleeding out or even going into more panic or shock. But I just felt this moment of like clarity and peace that surpassed all understanding. And like I knew that, okay, this is God's plan for me, whether I like it or not. But it's, it was a reminder to keep my trust in God and that He is there, He is watching over me. And it kind of turned more into like I'm gonna die, into like I'm gonna survive this. I don't know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a tough road, but I'm gonna survive this and make the best of it. And that kind of like attitude shift definitely was a huge game changer for me.
Mm. Well, surviving the accident is one thing and
Yeah.
recovering from it is another. And headlines do not prepare people for the long middle, the pain, the uncertainty, the repetition, the
Mhm.
frustration, the slowness of rebuilding a body and a life. What did those first weeks and months really look like after the accident?
So the first weeks, like the first few days, I was completely unconscious on a ventilator. My parents got the news in Colorado, yeah, on Thanksgiving Day, so they had to fly out that night, not really knowing if I'd be alive in the morning. They were a little unsure at the time about that, but thankfully, I was, and they got to the ICU. And for a few days, yeah, I was totally unconscious, but then I woke up and saw my parents in the ICU and kind of I'd say about perfectly recalled what happened to me. I had a really good, clear memory of it and just told them, because of this, I can make a bigger difference now than I ever could before the accident because I loved the ocean. I loved marine biology so much. And having an experience and a story like this, I could really use to help make a difference. And that was kind of my motivation throughout recovery. It was obviously very hard and painful every step of the way. I was battling infections in my right arm and my right knee. I had to completely learn how to rewalk again, stand, really do anything. It was a complete just a restart on everything. And there was days in the hospital that I just felt totally discouraged, but I kept hanging on to, I can make a bigger difference now than I ever could before. And I just had to tough it through like those really tough days in the hospital.
Sure. One of the phrases that runs through your story is time and repetition. I love that because
Yeah.
it's simple, but it is not
Mhm.
motivational fluff. It sounds like hard-won truth. And um, tell us about what time and repetition has looked like in real time.
Well, I say I first used that when I was working on in physical therapy to stand again. And start walking. The first time I stood up, it was extremely painful. I'm like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to walk again. But then the next day, it was a little easier. Then the next day, a little easier. So I was like, okay, well, if it only gets easier, then I just need to keep doing it and give it more time. That's kind of where time and repetition just, I started repeating that in my head a lot. And then there's a lot of other things. I love to play piano, so losing an arm is just detrimental to a piano player. And fishing, I love to do. Um, just all the things I thought I could never do again because of this. I was like, well, I'm just going to give those time and repetition as well. And that was kind of a motto in my head throughout my recovery is that, I can't, the first time, yeah, it's gonna really stink, and it did. But then the second time and the third and fourth, it got a little better each time. So
You even ran a half marathon.
yeah, back a few years ago, I did that, and I was completely amazed I was able to do that, and it went from barely running, a block to that, and I owe that all to just time and repetition, really.
I mean, it's just so inspiring.
Thanks.
So I want to move into this next part of your story because it is also truly remarkable. I mean, you are remarkable. Your whole story, your life is remarkable, Carter. You are a remarkable person. And I love how God has just used this situation for his glory and your good. The man who was driving the boat that hit you, Danny Stanton, was later charged. He took a plea deal and avoided jail time, and that outcome was in line with what you and your family wanted. The sentence included probation, a fine, and required safety related work. And then later, the two of you went on to work together in advocacy around boating safety and diver visibility. I mean, that is not where most people would expect this story to go. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it was quite the journey with that. The first time I ever saw him in person was during the court hearing, and it was it was a very, emotional and hard moment for me because I didn't know how I would react when I saw him for the first time. But before that, I told my lawyer that, I really wanted something productive to come out of this. I didn't just want, a punishment or a sentence. And I ended up coming up with those plea agreements that, he would help advocate for boating safety and help make a kind of a safety video with me, work with FWC, stuff like that, which is Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation. Um, so kind of that day in court was just a huge day for me of healing, especially because I got to shake his hand and I got to say, I forgive you. And it was, those words are very hard to say, when someone's changed your life this much. But it was probably the most healing moment of my recovery. Just kind of being able to say that and move past any resentment or just feelings I had about him. And we ended up, yeah, filming a video together, just hanging out for a bit, kind of just talking like normal people. And it was great. It was kind of like the perfect closure for kind of my any resentment I had. So it was just a very profound moment of healing, I'd say. It's the best way to describe it.
Amazing. At what point did you realize it wasn't just about what had been done to you, but it could become part of what you were building?
Yeah. It was, I mean, it was from day one when I woke up in the recovery room. I mean, it was, I can make a bigger difference now. At the time I worked at a sea turtle hospital, a Loggerhead Marine Life Center. And what I saw there was basically all our turtle patients were affected by boat strikes in some way. They were either missing flippers or had damage on their carapace or like their shell. And uh, kind of seeing that, putting together what happened to me, was just the perfect motivation to say, okay, I want to make a full recovery, go back to working with marine life, and it'd be a real testament towards kind of marine life perseverance and just yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. It's perseverance. It's showing that this is not going to stop me. This is not going to stop my career, and it's only going to make it better.
What was it like the first time you were no longer dealing with Danny simply as the man who hit you, but as someone now working with you toward a safer future?
It was a great feeling. It was a time when I was still going through a lot of PTSD from the incident itself. So it was a little like uncomfortable and hard to be around him, but at the same time, it was um, just extremely, uh, what's the best word? Like just healing. I mean, it was so cool to hear his perspective on it and see the emotions come out of him and see how much it affected his life as well. You know, he made a mistake that changed his life in a completely different way than it changed mine, but there's always a different perspective, and just to hear another perspective like that, really, really helps you process things.
Well, let's talk about the foundation. The Carter Viss Foundation publicly states that its mission includes helping those affected by boating related limb trauma and promoting safe boating and diving practices. It also strongly emphasizes better diver visibility, including a three-dimensional diver buoy system instead of relying only on the traditional flat diver down flag. So, what is the core mission of the foundation today?
So today it is basically in line with all of that. What we are mainly doing right now is developing our own 3D divers down device. So kind of like our big achievement last year was publishing Found in the Wake, with the help of my parents. And that kind of all the proceeds from sales from those books are going towards developing this divers down device now, which been working with an engineering firm for about a year now and getting my second prototype soon for testing. So really hoping that the product can be out and like available on the market maybe by the end of this year is kind of like a goal, but that's kind of where most of the uh, effort in the foundation is going right now. We also I don't know if you saw our Instagram, but we are doing a lot of kind of like educational content through that, through like videos of me talking about like boating laws and just new kind of updates for boating safety. So it's kind of like a mixture of those two things right now.
So let's talk about diver visibility issue because I'm not a
Yeah,
diver and this might be
yeah.
something that most people might not know as well. So on the day you were hit, you had the standard diver down flag. So it's flat on the water, right?
Yep.
And then but one of the big lessons from what happened to you is that the traditional flat marker can be hard to see depending on angle and conditions, which is why you're advocating for a more visible buoy system. So, talk about that a little bit, who might not know.
So divers down flag is actually required for anyone who is like snorkeling or diving out in the water in Florida and anywhere in the US. And basically it's like a small like 12-inch by 12-inch flag, um, basically a rectangle with a white diagonal line through it. And it just notifies boaters or anyone that there's a diver in the water there. So I always had that flag with me when I'd go out snorkeling. And that day, was no different. I had it about maybe 10 feet away from me. And kind of one of the rules for boaters or any water vessel is that you have to stay at least 300 feet away from this diver's down flag in open water if you see one. But unfortunately, that day it happened. The boat they were going about 45 miles an hour and didn't see the flag in time to turn away based on kind of the angle of their vessel and where my flag was. So, kind of like right when they saw it, it was too late. They were already like just a few feet away from it. And what the foundation and other companies have developed now are just the three-dimensional divers down devices that basically instead of just a flat two-dimensional flag, it's like a either like a circle or a pyramid, triangle, any shape that's three-dimensional. Um, and that's so that boats can see it from 360 degrees instead of just relying on hopefully being at the right angle to see a flag.
Right. Well, what is one safety habit you wish every person on the water would treat as a non-negotiable?
Mm. I'd say above anything else, it's um, probably say if you're going in the water, having like a dive buddy with you. That even more important than, yeah, I'd say anything else, because if I was alone that day, I wouldn't be here. You know, my diver's down flag did not protect me from the boat, but having a buddy out there with me who could, who was like a first responder basically, um, saved my life. And that's the thing about on the water. You never know when something can go wrong. And when something does go wrong, it's usually a very, very serious situation. So if I was alone that day and I had no help, I wouldn't be here. So if you're going in the water, if you're doing anything water related, uh, don't do it alone. Like have someone with you. It is just an absolute crucial thing that I try to advocate for.
That's wonderful. Now, this is the part of the story of your story that I love: survival, advocacy, but creativity after loss. I mean, just truly amazing. For listeners who may not know, your mom is Leela Viss, who is such a respected voice in the piano world. And that means music was already part of the family language long before recovery became part of the story. And after your accident, she wrote a song called Beauty from Broken just for you. What did that mean to you, not just as a pianist, but also as a son?
I mean, it was such a great honor. I mean, she fully embraced, my recovery and my kind of journey towards healing, and to see her kind of write and dedicate a whole piano piece to me was amazing. And kind of her, in addition to that, she really wrote all the updates about me to in our caring bridge, and she was so, yeah, it was just such an honor to see, such an amazing thing to see her like just inspire my creativity, I guess. Seeing her get creative after the accident really inspired mine.
Well, it was such a good way for her to process grief, and it's something that you could literally sit down and play the hope that she had.
Hmm. Yeah, and the song is so full of hope, and so just kind of joyful sounding. And it's yeah, it was really cool to learn it, and the way she composed it for left hand was amazing, super cool.
One of the things that she wrote was the fact that you had bought a digital piano right before the accident. And then, of course, you had to learn how to play with one hand. What did piano mean to you before the accident? Were you a formal player, a casual player, a serious hobbyist? Uh, Tell us about your experience with piano.
I say I was between like a casual player and a kind of a serious hobbyist. Like I love classical piano mainly, more so than like jazz or contemporary. And I love to learn like just pieces by like Beethoven or Chopin, and playing the piano just in my apartment, kind of like before the accident, is a way I would like wind down at the end of the day. Um, it was very like motivating to learn new pieces, and it took me a lot of time because I would try to learn them from memory. And it was really something that kind of was, because I wasn't in school or like didn't really have anything too like serious going on outside of work at the time. Like it was a good way for me to keep my brain active and kind of also unleash my creativity. So
Sure.
that's kind of what it was before the accident.
And after the accident, how do you approach piano now?
Uh, I mean, I approach it in pretty much the same way. Like, at first it was, oh, I just want to learn simple things to be able to play again. Um, but now after years and years of playing with one hand, I feel like if the same, if not better than I was, before the accident. And, I take it as just a serious hobby now. I love to play more in kind of performance settings, something I'd like to do more, but it's, still a huge hobby of mine and something that I love to do. And whenever I get time now, I sit down and just try to learn a new piece that was meant for two hands, but kind of transpose it into a one-handed piece.
Yeah, I've seen your videos. They're amazing. So I do have to ask one slightly mischievous question here. With having your mother, who is a piano teaching influencer, did your mom have to make you practice?
As a kid, yes, all the time.
So was there ever a believable way to pretend you had practiced, or you couldn't get away with it?
I could not get away with it. I mean, it was always a battle. Even like I remember lessons were frustrating for both of us. Just yeah, like I wish I took it more seriously as a kid. It was something like in my DNA, so it was, I didn't like actively sign up for lessons or anything. It was just kind of like laid upon me, and obviously I have a ton of gratitude for my mom for sticking with it with me and not giving up when, I wanted to give up. But it's something that I'm so glad I have now, and wish I would have put more time into practicing as a kid.
Yeah, that's what they all say. I always say if I had just a nickel for every adult that tells me they wish they could go back in time and had practiced more, I'd be a very rich woman. Well, let's talk
Yeah.
about left hand hobbies. That is your
Oh yeah.
YouTube channel. I love that. You're sharing piano, art, aquariums, dive footage, and it feels like more than just a typical YouTube channel. It feels more like a statement. What do you hope people see when they watch it?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a project I started this year. I realized I had all this footage of like me playing piano or diving in my aquariums. Like I gotta just compile this all into one channel to show that, I'm still doing like pretty much everything, if not more than what I used to do back when I had two hands. And now it's also just kind of a statement of this is what I can do and this is what I'm learning. I'm still learning, I'm still getting better at what I do. And I just can't wait to keep making videos and to share my experiences with everyone. I I kind of did something similar to this a few years back with Andy. We had an Instagram called like Florida Fish Boys, where we would post a lot of like our fishing encounters and stuff. And it's that was such a great way to get our like interests and hobbies out to the world. And this YouTube channel is kind of like a next step, kind of like a personal uh, video blog of all my interests and probably I'll add more like fishing to it, or who knows what other hobbies I'll get it into. But I'm always going to add them to that channel and just keep sharing that with everyone because I've really enjoyed it.
That's wonderful. So let's talk about your book, Found in the Wake. And it was co authored with your parents, Chuck and Leela Viss. And this story is about family, faith, grief, forgiveness, and mission. What did writing it with your parents bring out that telling the story alone might not have?
It was all in the perspective. I mean, you can listen to me tell the story and hear you're just hearing one perspective. And when you hear my mom and my dad just talk about how it affected them, it really, really gets into the meat of how kind of devastating this was to them and how it changed, not just my lives, but their lives and a lot of people around me. And to see that kind of the chapters are kind of interwoven. So like there's one chapter written by me, then one from my mom, and one from my dad, and kind of like cycles like that. And it shows how I might be thinking one thing during the recovery, but my dad's thinking something different. Same with my mom. And it really weighs into kind of like any situation in life. The real truth behind any story is seeing all sides of it. And that's kind of what this book, I think, really highlights. Um, there's obviously more perspectives than just me and my parents, but I think the stories that the three of us tell in it can really, really give you an idea of how life changing yet inspiring this whole situation was.
What do you hope people carry with them after they finish the book?
I say the main thing would be just for, it's something that's inevitable. We all are going to lose something in life. We're all going to have something happen to us that's out of our control, that's going to change things. And, the way I want people to look at it is, don't let it change you in a negative way. Let it build you, let it ultimately change you in a positive way, like it's done for me. And, something so brutal and detrimental happened to me, that I can still make a full comeback from that. I hope people will see like their situation and be like, okay, well, if he can do that, then I can do this and I can push forward with this. I think that's kind of like the main thing I want people to get out of the book.
So, what do you want your legacy to be? Maybe not just in the next 5 years, but way down the road. What do you hope people remember about you and about the Carter Viss Foundation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something I think about a lot, and it's something I I want a fully balanced life. I want a career in aquaculture and marine biology. That's kind of like one legacy I want to leave behind is how, I still pursued my career in that while at the same time being a major water safety advocate through my foundation, have my foundation grow to support other accident victims, especially kind of diving accident victims just like myself, to inspire them. And then also to, I do have a family now. I have two young daughters, so I want to see them grow up and really look up to my story and inspire them to live either lives of, ocean conservation or just of just inspiration in general. So that's kind of like it's kind of in different little subjects, but there's kind of the overarching legacy of just inspiration that I want to leave behind.
That's great. All right, Carter. Every show we do a segment called Quick Fire. All right. No overthinking. We're just going on instinct and mild chaos here. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Here we go. Aquarium bubbles or piano keys?
Piano keys.
One fish with absolute diva energy.
Queen triggerfish.
One fish that seems sweet but is secretly a menace.
Pufferfish.
What's more satisfying, finishing a run, nailing a piano piece, or getting a tank exactly right?
Getting a tank exactly right.
Dinner is better than dessert. Defend yourself.
I could give like 30 reasons why. Let's see. I mean, have you ever had Indian food?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, chicken tikka masala with rice and naan. I mean, how can dessert be better than that?
Right. What's one thing your younger self would think is very cool about your life now?
The fact that I'm working in like aquaculture research. I think, yeah, as a young kid, I never would have seen myself working in research. So
What is one thing that your mom probably said to you at the piano that still lives in your head rent free?
I'd say, ooh, that's a tough one. Let me see. Practice makes perfect.
Okay. So, did she ever use the teacher voice on you and did it work?
I say she did use the teacher voice. I don't think it worked. I think it got more of a reaction out of me.
And last one, what's one thing you know way too much about and are not sorry one bit?
uh, Pokemon.
That's awesome. Oh, Carter, thanks for the conversation today. Before I let
Sure.
you go, I always want to leave listeners with something they can carry. You've given us so much in this conversation, but if there are two things you want people to walk away with today, what are they?
I'd say the first thing is, if you have a inspiration, if you have something in life you really want to pursue, pursue that. Just knowing that, God will guide you in the right direction. Going to Florida was a huge thing for me, and it kind of took a leap of faith. And if you're ever feeling that way about something, I'd say take that leap of faith because it will pan out well in the end. And then the second thing is, I say time and repetition. It's I talked about it a lot. But if you apply that to anything in your life, like writing or schoolwork, or even just any relationships you're struggling with, time and repetition will heal things. It will make things better, and it really gives you perspective. So I think those are the two things.
That's great. I think what makes your story so powerful is not just that you survived something catastrophic, it's that you kept becoming. You kept loving the water, you kept pursuing science, you found your way back to music, you turned pain into advocacy, and somehow, incredibly, even the legal aftermath became part of a bigger story about safety, forgiveness, and purpose. Public reporting supports that the story ultimately included ongoing public safety advocacy involving both you and Danny, the guy that hit you. I mean, it's just an amazing story of forgiveness and faith. It's just amazing.
Thanks. And I'm 31 years old and have a long life ahead of me, and I just hope
Yes.
to do so much more amazing things as the years go by.
Yep. For sure. So before we go, tell people where they can follow your work, support the foundation, find the book, and keep us up with everything that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, you can check out the foundation on our website, which is cartervissfoundation.org. You can check out our Instagram. That's where we have a lot of content. Also links to the website, links to the book on there. You can find the book Found in the Wake on Amazon. You can find my YouTube channel, Left Hand Hobbies, on YouTube. And let's see, I think that's everything. Everything's kind of connected in that little network there. So best start is just cartervissfoundation.org.
Carter, thank you. This was a great conversation. And to everybody listening, go follow his work, support the foundation, check out the book, and share this episode with somebody who needs it. This one is about purpose, mercy, creativity, and in what it looks like to keep building a meaningful life after everything changes. I'll see you next time. You've been listening to The Heather Patero Show, produced by Heather Patero Studios. Connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit heatherpatero.com. Until next time, stay creative and live on purpose.